In terms of China and Russia, Russia, when we get things straightened out, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it to them. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
The United States has brazenly used force against Venezuela and demanded that Venezuela prioritize the United States when handling its own oil resources. This is a typical act of bullying. China strongly condemns this. I want to emphasize that the legitimate rights and interests of China and other countries in Venezuela must be protected. What I want to emphasize is that the cooperation between China and Venezuela is cooperation between sovereign states, and it is protected by international law and the laws of both countries.
China has sharply condemned the United States after Washington redirected Venezuelan oil shipments away from Beijing and toward American refineries, escalating tensions between the world's two largest economies. The move follows President Donald Trump's announcement of a sweeping deal to seize and sell up to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan crude, oil that had been locked inside the country under a U.S. blockade.
Russia and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil
in terms of China
and
and Russia, Russia, when we get things straightened out, but in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it to them. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Cargoes are now expected to be rerouted to American ports, boosting U.S. supply while cutting off Beijing from a key energy source. Speaking in Beijing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning accused Washington of blatant coercion.
The United States has brazenly used force against Venezuela and demanded that Venezuela prioritize the United States when handling its own oil resources. This is a typical act of bullying. This seriously violates international law, gravely infringes upon Venezuela's sovereignty, and severely harms the rights of the Venezuelan people. China strongly condemns this. I want to emphasize that the legitimate rights and interests of China and other countries in Venezuela must be protected. The United States has long imposed illegal unilateral sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry. Recently, it has even brazenly used force against Venezuela, which has severely disrupted Venezuela's economic and social order, and also threatened the stability of global production and supply chains. China has already strongly condemned this. What I want to emphasize is that the cooperation between China and Venezuela is cooperation between sovereign states, and it is protected by international law and the laws of both countries.
But behind the oil deal lies a much bigger demand. According to reports, the Trump administration has presented Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, with a stark ultimatum. Partner exclusively with U.S. on oil production. Prioritize American buyers for heavy crude. Expel Chinese, Russian, Iranian, Cuban economic interests. In a social media post, he confirmed Venezuela would hand over 30 to 50 million barrels of oil, worth nearly $3 billion. With proceeds benefiting Washington and Caracas. This diplomatic clash unfolds against the backdrop of a dramatic U.S. military intervention. Over the weekend, American airstrikes hit Venezuelan infrastructure, while special forces captured President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores, both now facing drug and weapons charges in the United States. Trump has framed the operation as a crackdown on narco-trafficking, but critics say it is also about asserting dominance over the world's largest proven oil reserves.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat. But we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have two, on average, 2 a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore.